Today, we're diving into the story of the Anglo-Saxons, the people who really forged the identity of England. It's this incredible tale of warriors crossing the sea, of new kingdoms rising from the ashes of a fallen empire. And you know what? It all starts not with a history book, but with a mysterious treasure buried deep in the earth.
So picture this. In the quiet English countryside, archaeologists are digging under this big, unassuming mound of earth. And they find a ship. I'm not talking about a shipwreck at sea, but a full-size vessel, deliberately buried. And inside, an absolute treasure hoard, totally fit for a king. This incredible find at a place called Sutton Hoo is basically our doorway into their lost world. These amazing treasures belonged to the Anglo-Saxons, the people who showed up after the Romans left and laid the very foundations of England. But that begs the question, right? Who were these people? Let's try and piece their story together. We're going to start with that spectacular burial because honestly, it tells us so much about the people who made it. I mean, just look at the sheer scale of this operation. This wasn't just some burial. This was a massive public spectacle. Can you imagine the effort? Dragging a 90-foot ship inland, filling it with a king's most prized possessions. We're talking ornate helmets, swords, gold coins from all over the known world, and then covering the whole thing with a gigantic mound of earth. This wasn't the work of some scattered tribes. No way. This was a huge statement of power from a rich and very well-organized kingdom. Okay, so how did these powerful kingdoms even get there in the first place? Well, to get that, we have to rewind the clock a little bit, to a time when Britain was left completely and totally vulnerable. So, for nearly 400 years, Britain was a Roman province. But, as you can see here, in 410 AD, the legions got recalled to defend a crumbling empire. And they never came back. This left Britain totally exposed, creating this huge power vacuum that, over the next couple hundred years, would just pull in new people from across the sea. With Roman protection just gone, Britain was basically a sitting duck for anyone who could cross the North Sea. So, let's see who decided to take a shot. It was mainly 3 Germanic tribes that crossed the North Sea. You had the Jutes, the Angles, and the Saxons. And they weren't just raiders, that's the key thing. They were migrants, seafaring warriors for sure, but also farmers looking for new lands, and they brought everything with them, a new language, new gods, a whole new way of life. And these newcomers, they didn't just raid and go home. Nope, they stayed. They fought, they settled, and they started to build a brand new world right on top of the ruins of Roman Britain. So it started as these small settlements grew, over decades and decades of fighting, into several really powerful kingdoms. By the year 600, the map of Britain was effectively redrawn, and it was from one of the dominant groups, the Angles, that the land started to be called Angleland, which, of course, eventually becomes England. The old Roman province of Britannia, it was gone, replaced by this patchwork of new rival kingdoms. But, and this is a really important but, it's crucial to understand this wasn't a total takeover of the entire island. The Anglo-Saxon kingdoms were mostly set up in what we now call England. Over in the rugged west and up in the north, the native Britons, the descendants of the Celtic peoples, they held on. And that's really the origin of the distinct cultures and languages that would grow into modern Wales and Scotland. The Anglo-Saxons didn't just change the map. Their own culture went through this massive transformation, starting with what they believed. Yeah, when they first got there, the Anglo-Saxons were pagans. They worshipped gods of nature and war. Figures like Woden and Thor, whose names, by the way, are still hanging around in our days of the week, Wednesday and Thursday. But a really profound change was on the horizon. A new faith, Christianity, which had already swept through the Roman Empire, was now arriving on their shores. And what's so fascinating is that Christianity actually arrived from 2 different directions at pretty much the same time. You had missionaries coming down from the north, from Ireland, guys like St. Columba who set up these really influential monasteries, and at the exact same time, you had a separate mission sent directly from the Pope in Rome that landed in the south. That one was led by St. Augustine, and he set up his base in Canterbury, becoming the very first archbishop, a role that still exists today. So after all these centuries of invasion, settlement, kingdoms, and transformations, what is the Anglo-Saxons' most enduring legacy? Well, you're literally hearing it right now. The Germanic dialects spoken by the Jutes, Angles, and Saxons all merged together and evolved into what we now call Old English. It is the direct ancestor of the language spoken by over 1.5 billion people across the globe today. When you think about it, from the words we use every day to the names of our towns and cities, the Anglo-Saxons are all around us.
Their story isn't just some dusty old history. It's a living, breathing part of our present, often in ways we don't even notice. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much of their world is still hidden in ours, just waiting to be rediscovered?